Ethan Burke came to in agony, blood trickling from his forehead, every inch of his body aching. Pine needles pricked his skin as he dragged himself across the forest floor. His vision swam, pain pulsing in his skull like a warning light. Trees towered above, still and silent. No signs, no roads, no other people, just wilderness. He stumbled through the underbrush, clothes torn and face streaked with dirt, until he caught sight of rooftops in the distance. Civilization. He pressed forward, clutching his ribs with every step. By the time he reached the town, he was barely standing. The small street he wandered onto looked frozen in time. Quaint buildings, trimmed hedges, flower boxes in windows. No cars moved, no voices spoke. But a coffee shop ahead had its door open. He stepped inside. A bell jingled. The place was calm, almost too calm. A woman behind the counter looked up from a pot of coffee. Her smile faded when she saw him. Where am I?" Ethan croaked. She hesitated. Wayward Pines, Idaho. The name hit him like a hammer. Wayward Pines. That couldn't be right. And then he collapsed. A fluorescent light hummed above him. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. Ethan blinked awake in a hospital bed, gauze wrapped around his head, IV in his arm. A nurse stood beside him, clipboard in hand. "You were in a bad car accident," she said calmly. "You're lucky to be alive." Memories came in flashes. The car ride, Stallings in the passenger seat, their conversation about Kate, the case, the search for two missing agents, Bill Evans and Kate Houston, his former partner, his former lover. The nurse scribbled something on her chart. Ethan's mouth was dry. "My partner, Stallings, is he here?" The nurse hesitated. "He didn't make it." Ethan closed his eyes. Guilt swelled in his chest. They were headed to Wayward Pines to investigate a lead on Kate's whereabouts. The case had been strange from the start and personal for Ethan. Too personal. Stallings had just started to ask if Ethan's wife, Teresa, knew he was working on this case. Then the truck. The blinding headlights. Impact. He tried to sit up, winced, and asked for his phone. The nurse told him the sheriff's department had all his belongings. For some reason, they'd been sent to Seattle. "Seattle?" he asked, confused. She simply nodded as if it made perfect sense. Back in Seattle, Adam Hassler, Ethan's boss at the Secret Service, stared at a forensic report. Stallings' body had been found at the crash site, burned beyond recognition. But no trace of Ethan. No blood, no hair, no DNA. Like he'd vanished before the crash happened. Hassler informed Teresa Burke that Ethan was missing. Her face crumpled. She'd known something was wrong when she hadn't heard from him. Still, she clung to hope. Ethan was a survivor. Back in the Wayward Pines hospital, Ethan sat up in bed and pulled out the IV. He needed to get out. He needed answers. But something was wrong. The halls were empty. Unnaturally so. No staff, no patients. The lights buzzed softly above as he limped toward the exit. The nurse caught up with him near the entrance. Her face was tight, her voice low. "You shouldn't leave." "I'm leaving," Ethan muttered. "You're not ready." "I'll manage." She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. Ethan walked past her and pushed through the doors, stepping into the sunshine of a town that didn't feel quite real. Every instinct told him that Wayward Pines was more than just off the grid. It was off the map. And whatever was going on here, he wasn't the first to discover it. But he might be the last. The sheriff's office was closed. Ethan stood in front of the locked door, swaying slightly from pain and confusion. His head still throbbed, and nothing in this town made sense. The air was too clean, the buildings too pristine, the people too absent. He looked around, searching for a sign of life, something human. Across the street, he spotted a bar. Lights on, door open. Inside, the bar was dim and quiet, the kind of place that should have had chatter, music, the clinking of glasses. Instead, just one woman sat alone at the counter, nursing a drink. She turned as he entered. She smiled faintly. "What brings you to Wayward Pines?" "I work for the Secret Service," Ethan said, sliding onto the stool next to her. "I'm looking for 2 agents, Kate Houston and Bill Evans. They disappeared here." Her expression didn't change. "Doesn't ring a bell." He frowned. "You sure?" "I would have remembered," she said, and took a sip. He asked to borrow her phone. She slid it to him without hesitation. Ethan dialed Teresa's number. Voicemail. He tried calling Hassler. Nothing. Every number he dialed went nowhere. He slid the phone back and stood. "I'll pay you back. My wallet's at the sheriff's office." She scribbled on a napkin and handed it to him. "Here, that's my address." He glanced at the paper. It read, 617 6th Avenue, Beverly, and beneath that, in tiny, shaky letters, "There are no crickets in Wayward Pines." He looked up, puzzled, but she was already turning back to her drink. Outside, Ethan paused. The street was empty, the silence thick. Then he heard it. The steady chirping of crickets coming from a bush near the sidewalk. He moved toward the sound and crouched down, parting the branches. No insects. Instead, tucked among the leaves was a small black speaker, hidden and wired into the ground. The chirping kept going, mechanical and artificial. Ethan stared at it for a long moment, heart hammering. Beverly hadn't been cryptic. She'd been literal. The next morning, he followed the address she gave him to a rundown house near the edge of town. The shutters were falling apart, the front door slightly ajar. Something was wrong. Inside, the air smelled of decay and dust. He stepped carefully through the entryway, his boots creaking on the warped floorboards. In the bedroom, he found a body, decaying, tied to the bed. Ethan froze, bile rising in his throat. Bill Evans. He recognized the remains, the badge on the belt, the tattered Secret Service ID still clipped to the shirt. Bill had been tortured, left here to rot, forgotten. Ethan staggered outside, sucked in a breath of cold air, and tried to steady himself. He had to report this. He returned to the sheriff's office. This time it was open. Sheriff Arnold Pope greeted him like they were old friends. Round face, neatly pressed uniform, calm smile. "I found Agent Bill Evans," Ethan said, voice cold. Pope didn't flinch. "Where?" Ethan gave him the address. "He was tied to a bed, tortured." "I'll look into it," Pope said casually, jotting something down. I'm looking for Kate Houston, too. I'll put the word out." The sheriff's calmness was maddening. Ethan asked for his phone and wallet, but Pope waved him off. "They're not here." "Where are they?" "Seattle." Ethan stared. "That makes no sense." Pope smiled. "A lot of things don't." Back at the bar, Ethan asked for Beverly. The bartender frowned. "No one named Beverly works here," he said. "I met her last night." The man shrugged. "You didn't meet her here." Ethan felt the floor shift beneath him. He pressed harder. "She was behind the bar. She gave me a drink." "You're confused, friend. Maybe take a walk." Something snapped. Ethan grabbed the man by the collar and shoved him into a table. Chairs scattered. But before he could demand anything, the man reversed the grip, slammed Ethan to the floor, and knocked him cold. Darkness. When Ethan came to, his head pounding again, the man was speaking softly into a walkie-talkie. "October 16th, 28. He's awake." Then everything went black again. He woke in a hospital bed, his wrist cuffed to the rail. A doctor sat nearby, studying a chart. "Mr. Burke," he said with a pleasant smile, "I'm Dr. Jenkins." Ethan didn't answer. "You've had some bleeding in the brain, hallucinations, memory gaps. We need to operate." "I didn't consent to surgery," Ethan muttered. "You're not thinking clearly." Ethan tugged at the cuff. "Let me go." "You're confused," Jenkins said softly. "None of this is real. The woman you met, the things you think you saw, all hallucinations." But Ethan's instincts told him otherwise. A nurse entered, injected something into his IV sedative. "We'll prep him," she said. They wheeled him down the hall toward an operating room. His eyelids were already growing heavy when a hand touched his shoulder. "Get up." It was Beverly. She dragged him off the gurney. They moved fast through the corridor, Ethan barely able to stay upright. The nurse spotted them. "Hey! Stop!" Ethan turned and slammed her against the wall, dazed and groggy. But before he could react further, his legs gave out. "I can't!" Beverly gritted her teeth and threw his arm around her shoulders. "Just a little farther." They slipped through a back door into the open air. She helped him hobble down a dirt path, through an alley, and finally into a small cemetery. She laid him down behind a gravestone. "Did you really work at the bar?" he asked, barely conscious. "I did," she said. "For a while, before I stopped pretending." "Pretending?" "They're trying to break your mind. They did the same thing to me when I first came here." "When was that?" 1999. Ethan's eyes flickered open. "It's 2014. She stared down at him, silent. Then everything went dark. Ethan Burke had escaped the hospital, but the answers hadn't followed. Only more questions, more dead ends. And now, finally, a face he recognized. Kate Houston. She was walking through the town square like a local, shopping bags in hand, hair tied back, calm, ordinary, settled. Ethan followed her from a distance, barely believing what he was seeing. She looked older, much older than she should have. It had only been weeks since he'd last seen her picture in her case file. But the woman he was now trailing had aged a decade. She and a man, her husband apparently, entered a modest home near the edge of town. Ethan walked up to the door and knocked. Kate answered. For a moment, she looked through him like he wasn't real. Then her eyes shifted. Her mouth moved into a polite, confused smile. "Can I help you?" "It's me, Kate," Ethan said. Her husband stepped beside her. "Oh, I'm sorry. You must be mistaking me for someone else." Ethan's jaw clenched, but he stayed composed. "I need to talk to you, alone." Her smile stayed plastered on her face. "I'm afraid now isn't a good time." When her husband stepped away, her demeanor shifted. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're watching, listening, always." Ethan glanced upward and spotted a small camera above the front door. "You've been here a few weeks?" she asked. "Just arrived?" Her face softened for a second. "For me, it's been 12 years. The door closed before he could respond. Ethan stood there, stunned. Something was wrong with time itself in Wayward Pines. It was the only explanation. Either that, or he really was losing his mind. He returned to his hotel, tried to sleep, but the walls felt like they were closing in. The next morning, he stole a car and drove. Any road, any direction, he didn't care. He just wanted out. But every road curved back. Every turn led him in a loop. Pine trees gave way to the same diner, the same gas station, the same church spire in the distance. He turned around, drove faster, more desperate, but it was always the same result. He was trapped. Later, Ethan stopped at the side of the road and walked into the woods. Maybe on foot, he could find something the roads weren't showing him. After nearly an hour, he saw it. A massive wall of steel stretching as far as the eye could see, at least 30 feet high, topped with curved fencing and barbed wire. A warning sign hung on it. Beyond this point, death. He backed away slowly. Back at the car, Sheriff Pope was waiting. "Out for a walk?" the sheriff asked with that same calm smile. Ethan didn't answer. His eyes darted toward the wall. "How do I get out of here?" "You don't," Pope said simply, "and neither does anyone else." He forced Ethan against the hood of the car, patted him down like a suspect. "I called your office," the sheriff said. "They've never heard of you. No one named Ethan Burke works for the Secret Service." "That's a lie. They told me you're not even in the system." Ethan's blood ran cold. Pope stepped back, hand resting on his sidearm. "Go back to your hotel, Mr. Burke. You're now the primary suspect in the murder of Bill Evans." Ethan didn't listen. He returned to Beverly's old house. The corpse was still there. Bill Evans, unmoved, untouched. Either no one had come to investigate, or they didn't care. Ethan rummaged through the man's boots and found a notebook hidden deep in one of them. Before he could read more than a few pages, he heard the sheriff's voice behind him. "You need to leave," Pope said. "Now." Ethan left, gripping the notebook tight. He went back to the bar, hoping to find Beverly. This time she was there. The music was loud, deliberately so. She pulled him into a dance. "We have to talk," he whispered. "This is the only way," she replied, smiling and swaying. "No one can hear over the music." He handed her the notebook. Bill had an escape plan. He mapped it all out. She opened it, flipped through the pages quickly. "Then we have a chance. I tried calling the Secret Service again today," Ethan said. Got someone on the line who said she was sitting in the Seattle office. I asked her if she was on the 7th floor. She said yes. Beverly blinked. So, there is no 7th floor in that building. They both knew what that meant. Later, Ethan found Kate again. He tried to press her, force her to stop playing along, but she stuck to the script. "You should go," she said. "Where's Bill's wife?" he asked. Kate hesitated, then gave him a name. "She might talk to you." As Ethan left her house, something on the wall caught his eye. A framed list of rules. 1. Do not try to leave. 2. Do not discuss the past. 3. Do not discuss your life before. 4. Always answer the phone. The rules weren't just suggestions, they were doctrine. He found Bill's widow. She was quiet, resigned. She told Ethan that Bill had killed himself. He couldn't take it anymore, couldn't pretend, couldn't follow the rules. That didn't match what Beverly had said or what Ethan had seen. He went back to Sheriff Pope, demanding answers. Pope told him forensics had taken Bill's body to the morgue. Ethan headed straight to the hospital. There he found the body and Bill's notebook, still among his personal effects. But as he was leaving, he froze. 2 stretchers passed down the hall. On them, Teresa and Ben, his wife and son. They were unconscious, strapped down. Ethan moved to follow, heart hammering, when Dr. Jenkins appeared again. "You're not well," Jenkins said, blocking his path. "None of this is real. Let me help you." "You drugged me. You tried to cut into my brain. We're trying to fix you." Ethan didn't wait to hear more. He ran. There was no more pretending now. The rules weren't just about keeping order, they were about control. Beverly had warned him. Bill had died for trying to escape, but Ethan had the notebook, and he was ready to use it. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed in Beverly's empty house, now reassigned as the Burke family home, watching the street outside through the blinds. Wayward Pines was too quiet, too orderly. And now Teresa and Ben were here. They hadn't planned to come. They had followed the crumbs. They'd gotten too close. He had questions about their arrival, about what they remembered. But when he asked, all they could say was that they'd been in an accident, just like him, just like everyone. And then they woke up here. No memory of the crash, no road, no ambulance. Just here. Ethan held back the truth, not because he didn't trust them, because he couldn't bear to see what it would do to them. Instead, he told Teresa to stay inside, to trust him, that this town wasn't safe. She wanted answers. He didn't have the ones she needed, only pieces of a nightmare puzzle. The next morning, Ethan went to the sheriff's office. Pope was waiting. "I want one thing clear," Ethan said. "You stay away from my family." Pope stepped forward, chest puffed like he'd been waiting for this moment. "This isn't your world anymore, Burke." Ethan reached for the notebook in his coat. "I know you killed Bill." Pope didn't deny it. But just then, the phone on his desk rang. He answered, nodded slowly, then looked up at Ethan with something new in his eyes. Restraint. Someone had told him to stand down. That's when Ethan understood. Pope wasn't the one in charge. Outside, Jenkins was waiting by the steps. He looked tired, almost sympathetic. "You're a good man, Ethan," he said. We need people like you here." Ethan didn't respond. He kept walking. That night, Kate was already waiting outside Ethan's house. She led him into the woods. Ben followed at a distance, unseen. She told him everything she could, what little she knew. "I've tried every way out," she said, voice hollow. "I've walked to the edge of town 100 times, dug under fences, climbed trees. There's no way out." "And the time difference?" Ethan asked. 12 years for you, weeks for me." "I don't have answers for that," Kate whispered. "Only that nothing here makes sense, except one thing. You survive by pretending." Ben overheard it all. When he returned to the house, he told Teresa everything. About Ethan and Kate, about the secret meeting, about the way they spoke like prisoners. Teresa's heart broke, not because she thought Ethan was cheating, but because he hadn't told her the truth. She packed their things and told Ben they were leaving. They didn't make it far. Pope stopped them on the outskirts of town, pretending to help with an oil leak, then sabotaging their car. His kindness twisted into something colder when he realized they were trying to flee. Teresa saw it in his eyes. Rage, fear, control. Ethan arrived just in time. He tackled Pope to the ground. They fought hard, brutal, feral. Years of training clashed with years of rule. Pope pulled his gun, but before he could fire, Ben slammed into him with Pope's own truck. Ethan stood, blood dripping from his lip, and pointed the sheriff's gun at his head. "You don't want to know the truth," Pope muttered. "It's worse than anything you're imagining." Ethan pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the valley. In Pope's coat, Ethan found a small remote. He didn't know what it was, but instinct told him it was important. He drove to the edge of the forest, to the massive steel wall he'd seen before. He pressed the button. With a metallic groan, a hidden door in the wall began to rise. Beyond it, darkness, pines swaying in an unnatural wind. Then movement, a shape. Something inhuman burst from the trees, snatched Pope's body like a toy, and vanished. A shrill, guttural scream followed, echoing off the steel, piercing the silence of Wayward pines. Ethan slammed the button again. The door crashed shut. His hands trembled. His breath was shallow. It wasn't a town. It was a cage. And whatever they were protecting the town from, it wasn't human. He turned and looked back at the sleepy streets, the neat houses, the people who smiled too wide and asked too few questions. The rules weren't about order. They were about survival. Later that night, Ethan stood outside his house, staring up at the stars, if they were even real. Teresa stepped out beside him, silent. He handed her the notebook. She read a few lines and her hands began to shake. "How long do we have?" she whispered. "I don't know," Ethan said, "but we're not staying quiet anymore." Behind them, Ben sat at the window, staring out, watching the streets as the lamps flickered on one by one. Somewhere deep in the trees, something howled, and in the center of Wayward pines, the phones began to ring.